and welcome everyone. Welcome to this year's Unity for Humanity Summit. My name's Sarah, and today's presentation will be on our peer-to-peer learning model. Today's presenters are, as I've already mentioned, me, Sarah. I'm a guild coordinator with the cloud infrastructure.
Hi guys, my name is Aira. I'm a junior in computer science at ASU, and I am at the XR Interaction and Level Design Guild.
Hey everyone, I'm Brayden Jenkins. I'm a senior at Arizona State University studying computer systems engineering, and I'm a member of the VR Tools Guild and Project Management Guild.
So first we're going to talk about the ICS, or the Immersive Creation Studio. The ICS is an XR lab at ASU, and we are students under the mentorship and guidance of ASU faculty and staff. But within the student groups, our leaderships are guild coordinators and project managers. The guild coordinators are, they lead a group of peers with a similar focus, whereas the project managers are lead peers with different focuses, but working on the same project. And in the ICS, we have 3 different project types. We have client projects, ASU projects, and R&D projects. The client projects are the projects that actually make us money, so very important. The ASU projects are projects that we think will benefit ASU, so any kind of classroom resource or anything like that, which could potentially generate revenue in the future. And then we have our R&D projects, which are our more fun projects where they don't have any basis in any current project, but we're hoping that in future projects, we can use what we've done in the R&D projects in these other projects.
These charts show ICS's commitment to diversity in gender, year, and studies, as well as ethnic backgrounds. So we have just some diagrams to show all the numbers for recruitment.
As Sarah mentioned, every ICS member is a part of a guild. Just a few of the guilds that we have are VR Tools, Cloud Infrastructure, Modeling and Animation, User Experience. And so the ICS has a very strong focus on guild-based learning and collaboration. So there's peer-to-peer learning through brainstorming, design, and creation. We have workshops and demos, and these workshops can be by a few guild members for the rest of their guild, or we even do by an entire guild to teach the entire studio. We also have special guest demonstrations. So that's where we invite experts to speak, teach, and inspire. And then finally, my personal favorite, we do game jams and hackathons. And these are a great way to just unleash your creativity, learn something new with your peers in a fun and low pressure environment. A specific example of a guild is the one that I'm a member of, the Virtual Reality Tools Guild. So the goal for this guild is to explore and innovate within the virtual reality space. So we want to solve problems like, why does VR cause motion sickness and how can we prevent it? We upskill, so we learn a lot of Unity's tools like the XR Interaction Toolkit, and we create VR systems that the rest of the studio can use for VR locomotion and VR interaction. We also try to innovate. So we find out what VR standards exist and what standards do we need to create or improve. Virtual reality is still a relatively new technology, and a lot of those standards don't exist yet. We also want to find out, how can we create systems that are accessible to any VR user, regardless of experience or ability? We also share. We have studio-wide workshops on what is virtual reality, how does it work, the best practices that we've found, and how to design for accessibility. Something really important to the ICS as a whole, but also to this guild, is diversity. So we have members from many different backgrounds, and some had never even touched a virtual reality headset before. So then they were placed on the VR Tools Guild. And Robert Sutton has a great quote that explains why we chose to do it this way. He wrote, "At places where intense innovation happens, they often combine people who know a little with people who know too much." The tension between massive knowledge and fresh thinking can spark a fundamental breakthrough, and we've really seen that to be true in this guild. Finally, there's a heavy focus on collaboration. Virtual reality experiences can be very personal and subjective. Some people might prefer teleportation, some prefer smooth movement, some prefer the snap angle turning, some prefer smooth turning. So diverse perspectives are key to help us find out what works and for who. Along with this, we learn together, try different things, and we always need to feel free to fail. That is key. As you'll see, there's an example. I was tasked with creating a VR avatar system, and at the meeting, this is what I had to show. So things don't always go your way, but having an environment where failure is okay and even expected can really help everyone learn together and succeed.
Thank you for that, Brayden. And as for projects, ICS have worked on many outstanding projects throughout the summer. And we'd like to highlight several projects amongst the many we've done. We have projects that can take you to Mars, and this is through the Journey to Mars project. We have projects that can take you to virtual museum-like rooms that would let you explore various careers. We even have a virtual rendering of our very own ASU campus with digital twin, as well as an AR app that helps you navigate the campus in an engaging, gamified way. We also have many educational applications, such as an immersive experience to help engineers develop an entrepreneurial mindset with Project Uplink. We also have a project that showcases impactful renditions of interactive data and animations of our current climate. And finally, we're creating 360 spaces for exploration of immersive media. And that's really to name a few. In fact, many of these exciting projects are onto their next phases for this fall, while new projects pop up for the coming semesters.
Now that we've talked about that, we're going to move on to talking about more in depth about the peer-to-peer model, both inside the ICS and as a whole. So what is a peer-to-peer model? It's separate paths but connected, so a network of students helping one another grow. The main point of a peer-to-peer model is that a student learns a new skill and then passes that skill on to fellow students. And the other major point is that the leadership roles are taken up by fellow peers. And it differs from a normal setup because it's not as hierarchical as an employer-employee setup. And there's a sense of shared responsibility expected among the students. Because if one student doesn't do something, then other students can't learn from them or do anything like that. So a sense of shared responsibility is very important in a peer-to-peer model. In the next slide, we have what we call a listening post, which Aira will explain more, and this is something that we use in the peer-to-peer model.
Yes, so part of a peer-to-peer model would be the listening post, and this is actually a mural board created by the UI UX Guild that is open to all of the ICS members, and essentially is a platform where all our voices can be heard. And so how it works would be students can anonymously submit feedback, share their thoughts, ask questions, or even post funny memes on how they're feeling. But essentially, we're getting all these feedback, all these thoughts, and then as leaders, we'll be able to respond to it. And so again, it's promoting that sense that everyone's voices will be heard.
And now talking about peer-to-peer in a specific example, I'm going to talk about peer-to-peer model that I used within my guild on a project we did. So in this project, in the Cloud Infrastructure Guild, we wanted to make a multiplayer / lobbying repository / tutorial. So the goal of this tutorial was to explain from I've just downloaded Unity for the first time to I now have a game that implements multiplayer with lobbying. And we also wanted a repository with all that code so that other students could look at it and learn from it. So how we went about doing this was we got about 4 members in the Cloud Infrastructure Guild, so about half the guild, and they broke it up into manageable parts. So the first person would take up, here's how to download Unity and download MLAPI. The next person would be explain player prefabs and how they work in a network. The next person would explain network variables and RPC calls. And it was built on top of one another until we got to this final end goal where we had that multiplayer, multi-lobbying scene. So how did it go? It actually went really well. We actually ended up with adding in more than we set out to do. So we added in object spawning and multi-scene and a few other things too. So that went really well. And we also were able to create both a PowerPoint to explain our tutorial and all this repository where we had each step as we went. So the first repository, the first code would be like just the basic up to the last repository being the entire project. What went wrong? As mentioned, every single student is part of both a guild and a project. So some guild members had to focus on other projects. So there were some time delays, but overall it went pretty smoothly. And then how did peer-to-peer work within this project? It went really well because we had one student learn something about, like I said, object spawning, and then they would teach everyone else and add it to the tutorial. So instead of just one person learning all the information, we were able to break it up so that every single person would just learn a little bit and then teach everyone else, which worked both in the project, and now we can use that project to teach other people. And that's a very specific example of a peer-to-peer model. We're now going to talk about peer-to-peer model as a whole within the ICS. And we're going to start by asking what works in a peer-to-peer model.
So for me, echoing what you said, Sarah, the workshops, we actually had a 1-hour student-led workshop on Introduction to Unity. And that was actually enough for all the members to start meaningfully contributing to projects. And that really worked well. Another thing that worked for the peer-to-peer models was a large level of autonomy in our guild and project work. This let us make sure that what we were working on was something that we were excited about. And so we would come to every meeting like, I can't wait to show everyone what we worked on this week and see what they think. And so the passion is really apparent. One more thing that really worked in my experience for the peer-to-peer models was close collaboration on features with your peers. For example, when working on VR interactions, I had started on a feature and I eventually just hit this really tough roadblock. I could not make it through. And so I passed it over to one of my coworkers, and he's just instantly saw the issue and saw something new. So he made his changes, and then when I got it back, his changes sparked an idea for me, and then I could improve it even further. And so it's great to have peers who are there for you, and we were learning together, and passing that knowledge around is super helpful.
Yeah, I totally agree. Just on the level of autonomy that we have, Brayden, and just that avoiding that pressure too of we were talking about the hierarchy of an employer-employee. Instead, because it's like a peer-to-peer based, we're creating a work environment that's a lot more fluid, more comfortable. And since we all have kind of a like mind and we understand each other more. But I kind of want to bring up the point too, the fact that we didn't really know each other in the beginning, right? During our summer kickoff, we had to create these personal user manuals. And essentially this is a slide deck, and in each slide you would put in who you are, what you like to work on, things you love, and just conditions you like to work on. And personally, this is really helpful because as students, we want to know each other and be comfortable with each other. And so, suddenly we form these cool connections right from the beginning. Someone might be really interested in the arts, and then someone said, yeah, me too. And then we just kind of create that connection, that peer-to-peer model connection of having our circle and then connecting with other people. And then, again, it's really just amazing because it's really the focus on the people and the focus on humanity that we are striving for. and the environment that we would want to be in.
Going off Ira and Brayden, autonomy is very important in this peer-to-peer model because when people are passionate about what they're working on and when they get to choose what they work on, they have a lot more motivation to work on stuff. And because they're so interested in it, they are inspired to teach others about it, which is what makes this whole peer-to-peer model work. Because when people want to teach other people, it inspires those people to want to learn and also get to know what that person's working on. And then on the flip side, people will be motivated to learn about what everyone else is doing, which in turn really creates a sense of community where everyone knows what everyone else is working on. So it really lets you see in a project the entire picture, not just, oh, I'm just working on this one section. But on the flip side, we're going to now talk about what would we do differently next time and some problems that peer-to-peer models we still have to figure out. One of those cons to peer-to-peer models that we're still trying to find a solution to is how to get people motivated, because even if people are working on something that they like, sometimes they're still not motivated to work on it. And the problem with that is if they're not motivated on their area of research, one, the work they do is substandard, and two, they're not as motivated to share with other people what they've been learning, which kind of stops peer-to-peer model in its tracks. And on the other side, if they aren't motivated to learn about what they're doing, they're also tend not to be motivated to learn about what other people are doing, which kind of breaks down that community that is necessary in a peer-to-peer model. So learning how to get people connected and to be motivated are two problems that we're trying to work on within the peer-to-peer model.
Yeah, Sarah, like there are people who lack motivation, and I totally agree with you. But then there's also people with motivation. And then this side, they might actually feel overworked. So the key to this would mostly be communication. And so what would we do differently next time would be kind of turning on that sixth sense for those who might still be hesitant to communicate a problem. And we have to take initiative to reach out to them and be sensitive to their time and efforts. Because like in the end, it's all hands on deck for the deliverables. And we want to make sure that everyone is on the same boat, everyone is understanding of the requirements. But then, yeah, on the flip side, as student leaders, we want to create that comfortable space for questions to be welcomed, but it's also on the students themselves and peers to really take that initiative to ask them. So it's both sides, like the leadership, the student leaders, we want to create that safe space that it's okay to face problems and it's okay to communicate them. And then the students themselves have to put in that time and initiative to be able to ask them.
100%, right. Yeah, in my experience and what I'm personally working on is really emphasizing that failure is part of the learning process. I'd mentioned it before, but when you're worried about failure, that can really hold you back from contributing meaningfully. And so removing those worries can let you soar. And I want to make sure every member of my teams similarly feel that, you know, if they do end up failing, that's totally okay. You know, that's expected, and it shows that you're progressing. It shows that you took something that was challenging you. And so if you're never failing, you're never challenging yourself. And so that is really key, is to encourage that and expect it so that everyone can contribute and not feel worried about sharing that, like, oh, I couldn't get it done this week. Like, that's okay. And also part of this community, like, let's work on it together. So.
I really appreciate you bringing that up, Brayden, and it actually triggers a memory that I had back in high school. And my philosophy teacher told us that a really good quote, and I just remembered it, but he said, fail better. And it's kind of funny because like fail and then fail better, but it's like less pressure. You don't have to expect that you have to succeed right after, like after you fail. You don't have that expectation that you have to succeed right after. Instead, it's like this notion of, for example, you're riding a bike and then this is your first time riding a bike and then you fall over. So you failed once, but then next time you ride your bike again and then you fall over again. And then, but instead, you know how to fall better. And so you are used to that. And then just this constant reiteration that you'll be comfortable with failure. So at the end, you have that sense of success because eventually you may succeed, and that's like a really good, just a good, better feeling. But definitely failing is just part of that learning process, and I really like that you touched upon that, Brayden.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's a great quote.
Yeah. Moving on to would be our last question would be what's next for us. And as far as what's next, for the ICS, we're actually going to be creating this new event where every Friday, each guild will have a weekly showcase, and it will just show all of our projects and all of the things we've been doing. And again, it's like an opportunity for students to be leaders of their own guild. And personally, on what's next for me, I'm planning to finish my bachelor's in computer science next year and take master's.
As for me, within the ICS, I'm going to try to solve and implement some of the problems we faced during the summer, such as motivation and communication, and implement that in my guild. And then personally, I am finishing out my senior year and graduating with a degree in cybersecurity, and then hopefully get a job. So, yeah.
For me at the ICS, right now, I'm in the very early stages of a really exciting project. So hopefully more on that later. And then personally, after I finish my bachelor's, I'm going to go for my master's in autonomous systems. And then after that, Unity team, be on the lookout.
Yeah, definitely hire Brayden. He's like the best. And then as for best practices, oh, Sarah, would you like to?
Oh, no. We're just going to wrap it up by talking about the best practices of peer-to-peer models. We've mostly gone over all of these. We just thought that these were some final bullet points that were kind of the essence of the peer-to-peer model. So Aira, if you'd like to go.
Sure. And then I'd like to just point out this is the best practices of peer-to-peer models. So it kind of shows that it's not just one like model. It could be malleable. You could add more to it. But these are just a few of what my team put together. And it starts off with just communication. And so with communication, right from the beginning, you want to get to know your peers. I know like knowing people, it's a lot easier to talk to people, of course, when you know them. And then always be communicative. So there's a lot of platforms you could be very communicative on. It could be more vocal. It could be during the meetings, but also even indirectly, like make sure in spaces such as like Slack or other work channels, you would be able to keep active and be able to answer questions when they come up. And then there are also the idea of bringing diverse perspectives together. And Brayden touched upon this before, like we have different viewpoints, but the important key to this would be communicating these viewpoints and then essentially build it up to maybe even a better idea that is a combination of all of these viewpoints. And then there's also promoting accessibility and inclusion. And that is like a very big thing just in the workplace in general, making sure everything is accessible for everyone and everyone feels included and everyone feels comfortable in their space.
Another big point we brushed up on was motivation, which includes self-determined learning and a growth mindset. So you have to want to learn and have to want to teach others. It's a key aspect of peer-to-peer model. So it's always important to do what you can to promote that.
Yeah, and finally, you need to expect and even encourage failure as part of the learning process for a successful and communicative team.
And with that, I want to thank you for coming to watch our presentation. I hope it was fun and that you learned something. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.